Namaskar, hello and welcome to Sunset TV. I'm Tina Jha. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Proclaiming these inalienable rights that everyone is entitled to as a human being is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the milestone document adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. To commemorate the adoption of what has been the global standard yardstick to protect and promote human rights, the world observes Human Rights Day every year on the 10th of December. The central theme of the day this year is reducing inequalities. To speak more about the significance of the day, particularly at a time when the world is reeling under the impact of the COVID pandemic, and also the challenge of growing inequalities is bigger than ever today, I have with me in the studio today the Chairperson of National Human Rights Commission, Justice A.K. Mishra. Welcome to Sunset TV, sir. It is an absolute pleasure to have you amongst us on Sunset TV. So at a time, sir, when the COVID pandemic has widened inequalities, be it economic, social, be it education, or even for that matter, gender inequalities, let me begin the conversation with your thoughts on the Human Rights Day, its growing significance today in the context of the pandemic, and how the pandemic has impacted globally the concept of human rights.
This is the worst time which humanity has faced, which we can remember in the recent times. The world has faced a colossal loss of human life. We are not ready, even with the medicines for this pandemic. Vaccines were not available. Lockdowns throughout the world had to be imposed for substantial time. Everything was standstill for substantial period of time. Everything, every sector, whether the industry, transport, whatever is, education, colossal loss everywhere. Trains had to be stopped. Workers, small scale sector, even small vendors, shops had to be closed. It was difficult to get even the life-saving drugs, medicines and vaccines, much less for the poor. We had seen the scarcity of medicines and there were problems of distribution. And you see, COVID has brought to the fore the plight of the poor, which was there all the times, of getting affordable life-saving drugs at the affordable prices. You see, on one side, when any invention takes place, it is patented. But it is ultimately for the benefit of human.
Absolutely.
When human right is in danger, and you see millions of people have died world over, it comes to the mind, even in the present context, what is happening in South Africa. People could not be vaccinated. What is the reason? Reason is that vaccines were not available over there. They could not afford, poor could not afford the medicine. Now there is new variant Omicron. World is fear. Everybody in the world is fear. What will happen now again? Be that as it may, but time has come to think over whether intellectual property rights in the form of patent should give way to the right to life.
Absolutely.
Right to life is more important. We have to balance these intellectual property right vis-a-vis to right to life. And in my humble opinion, the right to life should prevail. Even if at this time, if we are under the clock of patents earning money every second, colossal money every second, which the vaccine producers are earning, and from these drugs, which are life-saving drugs. Time has come to think it seriously where we are feeling. Then question comes of digital divide. When it is so much, you see, there is benefit of digital divide, which only section of population could reap, those who are having this access to it. But you see, we are a country where people live in far-flung areas. They don't have this facility. They are ignorant of this. You see, they are not aware of all this. What is even you see, this technology is. So how to reach to them? How to give justice to them? How we make the benefit available of social welfare schemes framed by the government, even for COVID purposes, you see, distribution of food, ration for poor and far-flung areas. Now you see, then question comes, then how we percolate down the benefit to them, to those persons to whom we cannot reach, you see, by digital mode. That is the main, you see, challenge which we have to evolve. Small vendors suffer. E-commerce prospered. Now, e-commerce has brought certain positive aspects also. But at the same time, what happens to small vendor? You see, those who are not, for whom this facility is not available, their shops were closed. New challenges have come. Education has suffered. There are dropouts from the schools, particularly girls, and in village areas there are huge dropouts. Now, question is how to get back these children for the purpose of education. Again, you see, whenever something is to be done, let us close the schools and colleges. But education is also one of the very important aspects for the progress of any country. You see, we have now gone back for 1 or 2 years. We will not be having that talent available which would have been available but for this pandemic and 2 years loss of education now. Who will recoup it? It is not capable of being recouping. Now you see, there are several problems which have come to the fore, you see. Now we have to be better prepared for for emancipation of these downtrodden classes and poor classes, which we were not earlier. This pandemic has brought that situation that world over we have to think over. That still, you see, we see in several countries unrest. And you see, countries differ, nation differ, people differ, their political system differ, socio-economic structure differ. So there is bound to be difference in the problems in different countries. But you see, human rights are supreme. They have to be protected because it is we are lucky to have a golden constitution with us, which has recognized all the rights, human rights, which were prevailing in our countries for centuries together. That was in our religion, that was in our civilization, you see. These were part of our civilization, you see. You see, now they have found constitutional expression, fundamental rights, and more important are the right for social emancipation, according to me, are contained in directive principle of the state policy, contained in part 4 of the Constitution, and that is the basis and foundation on which so far whatever upliftment we have seen in India is based upon that, and the state is given freedom to act upon that. Court will not interfere in enforcing that. It is because state should have the freedom in implementing those directive principles and by framing policy. And once statutory provisions have been made in pursuant of those constitutional perspective and directives for emancipation of downtrodden classes, fulfilling of their aspirations, not only aspirations, the human rights are not aspirations. They are not mere aspirations, they are basic rights, they are fundamental rights, you see, which are more than what they aspire. Aspiration is something which we long for. But they are born with these rights. You see, we have to give them at least basic minimum facilities of minimum standard of health, education, shelter. All these things are the duty of the government to provide, and we are lucky to have several schemes. But unfortunately,
as the embodiment of India's concerns on promoting and also spreading awareness on these human rights, which are now being challenged and have come under, a lot of stress because of the prevailing situation of the pandemic. So be it the education sector, be it gender equality that you have pointed out, of course, there are several other areas. So large sectors being impacted by the pandemic situation. Now, the question is, what to do? What are the initiatives that the NHRC is taking to reduce these inequalities that have creeped into our society now?
you see, we have our research wing for it. We always look into every governmental scheme and every provision for welfare of the people, you see. We see where the violation of human rights can take place, those places also. We ensure that destitute is given power. They are strengthened. Only then we will make them a party to the participate. They have to participate, you see, in the power, in you see, our distributive justice, distribution of largesse and distributive justice must have to be balanced, you see. When we are distributing certain thing, it's not the booty of 1 or 2 or 3 persons. We have to ensure that those who require it, those due to their injustice suffered by them for several decades or for centuries, we have to give ameliorative measures to them, bring them up. Protective discrimination is required. That is what is contemplated under Article 39B and C. And only then we can, if we make them party to all this power sharing and bring them to, we want to bring them to the equal level. Harmonious society is the only thing on which we can survive and thrive, and if any civilization or culture has to remain, you see, they have to recognize basic human rights. They have not to violate it. Even, you see, any person who is in custody has the human rights, you see. He cannot be treated like an animal even in the prisons, you see. He has to be provided proper food, proper clothing should be there. He should be, you see, treated effectively. In case there is, he cannot be tortured, he cannot be treated like animal. But unfortunate part is this, that you see, jails were not made for so many prisoners. There is paucity of space. Now you see, there has to be planning for all this, you see. You see, wherever you see, we see that even courts which are existing, they were not made for, you see, so many judges, so many lawyers, so many litigants. So everywhere we find that there is a shortage of infrastructure. So this has to be looked into. And then you see, when any scheme is framed for food distribution, you see, we have to ensure that the benefit reaches to the needy. Earlier, when this technology was not being used, the benefit was hardly reaching, percolating, trickling down to the needy. Now at least monetary benefit which is transferred directly is reaching to those persons. But still the problems of implementation of several welfare schemes are there. You see, they are not being properly administered. Executive machinery must ensure that they are properly administered. Bonded labor also we are looking after. We are looking after these orphan houses, prisons, and the old age homes. And then human trafficking problem is thriving like anything, you see. Child trafficking and all this, you see, we see that there are several problems which have to be addressed. And worst problem is that terrorism against the basic human rights. And it is increasing not only in India, in several parts of the world. World is facing worst kind of terrorism as which may have existed, you see, at present. Now you see, who funds them? There are certain vested interest. Without funding, terrorism cannot thrive. Who supplies them modern arms? How they reach? How the arms reaches to them? They are not easily available, and they are better armed than our forces, you see. And terrorists some of the times take the shelter of human rights also. And so many persons feel that they are the only champion of the human right, but human rights are not the monopoly of few. Human rights have to be defended by everybody in every country. Now there is another violation which we face is that of gender equality. In several countries, there are complaints. I don't want to name any country outrightly because it is international human rights say. Mine goes to the plight of those for gender injustice which is being suffered, you see, by the woman in several countries. And we see that there was earlier complaints of racial discrimination. Now still you see we have to do a lot about protecting the human rights and give the dignity to human to which by birth he is entitled.
Sir.
My person is entitled for these rights by birth. They comes with him. You see, this is the God has given the best creation on earth is that human. Human and humanity are combined together, you see. If you deprive human of humanity, you cannot do. They are inseparable part of it, you see. This is the best creation which the God could give to the earth. We cannot be destructive of ourselves. You see, we have to be, protecting ourselves. We have to be proactive in protecting in environment, forest, flora and fauna. You see, every year in Delhi there is choking. Why we cannot find out a solution? I feel that there is solution, but there is remiss on the part of the officials in not checking all this, you see. Okay. There are several hot spots, several things which we can do, several factors which have to be remedied, but there is certain failure which is intolerable.
Is it part of the larger debate that violation of one, or maybe the human right of one is upheld over the human right of another, and that has become a common norm in our society today as well?
No. You see, even there cannot be fake encounters. It's impermissible, barbaric. It's not permissible to have fake encounter and kill any criminal or terrorist. One. And secondly, our armed forces are for the protection of human. Semi-armed forces, police are everybody. This entire system of this protection is for protection of human being. They are not supposed to take the law in their own hands and kill anybody, innocent person. They have to use only that much force which is necessary. And it is not that, you see, it is the sword of a soldier which is in their hand for protection. It is not a dagger of killer which is in their hand. So they are expected, this armed forces, police, semi-armed forces, everybody is required to, observe to the utmost hilt human rights, protection of human rights.
So let me understand from you, when incidents like these occur in any part of the country and the NHRC takes so motor cognizance, we often read, hear in newspapers, in fact as media professionals, we even report about how the NHRC takes so motor cognizance of incidents like these. For example, what happened in Nagaland was quite unfortunate. Now, of course, an investigation is underway, but I'm sure our viewers would like to understand that beyond that, what is the mandate of the NHRC? Once the notice is served, what is the due procedure?
You see, I would not, because case we have taken so moto cognizance, I am a party to it. I will not comment on the merits of the case because we have to still decide it. But still, so far as regards procedure is concerned, I will answer your question, not about the merits of the case. You see, first thing which I would like to mention in abstract, that even if any force, when they are in search of any criminal or terrorist or they are searching somebody, they have to be very cautious. They have to be very circumspect, and they have to exercise that even if they are cordoning any area, then they are supposed to ensure that least trouble is caused to any civilian. It is their fundamental duty. But there are sometimes some remiss will go into the merits of the case of Nagaland also. We have issued notice, we have called for the report of a special investigation team, we have called for the comments from the government also. I cannot say what is the merit, what will happen on the merit of the case, but in case we find guilty, we can direct the compensation. One, negligence, even if negligence is there, they have not taken proper caution or something like that. You see, if we reach to that conclusion, I do not say that it was there right now. But in that case, we can recommend compensation to be paid. Person next of the kin should be properly compensated, and then appropriate action should be initiated against the person whosoever is guilty in such kind of offense, in such kind of things. You see, such kind of episodes or incidents which should not happen. You see.
And are these recommendations that are made by the NHRC
Normally, we
binding?
ensure that they are implemented and they are being implemented.
And are they binding on the concerned authorities, on the
you
states?
see, there is debate going on. Some high courts have taken the view that they are binding. Some one or two high courts have taken the view that they are only recommendations as such, may not be for enforcement. One NHRC should go to the court, but they are enforceable nonetheless. Debate is going on, so ultimately one day it will have to be decided. I will be very, very happy if these, though they are styled as recommendation, but they have moral binding, they should be complied with, they are being complied with, and we ensure by repeated, we do not close a case until unless our recommendations are implemented.
And is it because of this very limitation that very often in the past the former chairpersons as well have called the NHRC a statutory body which lacks teeth? And if this provision is enabled...
I'm not agreeable with you. Our job is not only this, you see. Though I feel that our substantial number of recommendations are met forthwith. Even in advance they are met. Once we have issued the notice, they will pay the compensation, which we have even proposed in that notice, and they come with this compliance that we have paid. It's all right. So I do not say this, and then our duty is not only this complaints part, you see. We interact at the international level, GAMRI with, and India is founder of Asia Pacific Forum, which is very important body for protection of human rights in Asia Pacific region. That is India's contribution. India is giving lot of money every year for this new protection of human rights. And we are lucky to live in a country, you see, where we have distributed vaccines throughout the world. And you see, we have given the vaccines free of cost to every citizen of this country. And then you see, our job is also to look after various international treaties and the conventions and how they can be best implemented in India, to which India is signatory. And then our job is also to look, strictly it is duty enjoined how to reduce terrorism from this country.
Yes, absolutely.
It is our duty under Section 12. We have to take the steps for taking care of terrorism and for its eradication, elimination. So this, and then you see, we have to visit prisons, we have to visit hospitals, we have to visit schools, we have to do service to the destitutes and those downtrodden, and that actually we fill in the gaps where they are in the law or in the schemes, and where we find that there's some creases are there. Our job is to iron them out, to help in the good governance, you see, that benefit reaches to the needy, downtrodden, and they are made they are brought in the mainstream, they are made powerful. Only then, you see, our country will further progress. It has come up, but certain benefit has to go down further. Even last man in the, you see, queue should not be deprived of the justice to which he is entitled by way of distributive justice, by way of protection, by way of ameliorating measures. That's our job.
And when you say that, two areas that require specific attention, as mentioned by you, one is of course prisons, because the rights of inmates are something that the NHRC has been working on. And the other is to end discrimination against women. That is one area that particularly requires attention globally. But if we talk about India, what are the kind of efforts that the NHRC is taking to end violence against women, violence of all forms?
When we receive any complaint of discrimination anywhere about any kind of discrimination, violence, or any such practice which is derogatory to gender equality, we put our foot firmly and ensure that this kind of discrimination ends, not only from actual practicability or happening at the place, but even if it is there in any scheme or law or somewhere, even we can suggest to the government that take these steps which are more beneficial for gender equality. For this purpose, there is one recent study has been done by a committee of NHRC, that is Committee for Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and its report is ready. There are certain recommendations which have been made, which will be going a long way in ensuring gender equality. Though in India, we respect the woman, we have high respect for the woman, they are taken as Shakti, they are running the houses, they are making the nation, you see, they are the maker of the children, they are making of the nation, you see.
Absolutely.
When child is shaped by mother, you see, that is the greatest service done by any mother to this country.
Unfortunately, that inequality has only been widened by the COVID pandemic. Just like school dropouts, there have also been women who've been forced to stay at home because of the pandemic which is underway. But I'm sure with efforts globally and with bodies like the NHRC, women equality will see light of the day, as we've all been speaking about. This is one area that requires attention. Women participation, gender parity has to be worked across for the progress of the country as well. And also prison reforms is one area that requires attention. So what are the kind of suggestions that you have thought about?
This will be ongoing process, you see. In Tihar Jail, several incidents have taken place recently. Criminal activities had taken place. These are the officers are definitely in connivance, otherwise these things should not take place in the jail. You see, my considered view is that a criminal should come out of the jail like a reformed person. His effort should be that his criminality should come to an end in the jail itself. He should be given such learning, such vocations, such teachings in the jail that he reforms himself. And it's not the purpose, is not only that punishment. Once he comes out, he should come out as a respectable human with full dignity and as a responsible citizen of this country, not to commit those crimes again, and should be party to this, you see, progress of the nation.
Absolutely. And as John F. Kennedy had said once, and I would like to quote him, the rights of every man are diminished if the rights of even one man across the globe are threatened. And that is something that people have to think about and ponder over, upholding, promoting human rights. So thank you. With that, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of the program today. Thank you, Justice Mishra, for joining us on Sunset TV and engaging with us in such a meaningful conversation. Thank you for joining us and our viewers. It was a pleasure having you on the show. So that's it from us on this broadcast. Thanks very much to all our viewers for their time.